like to officially call to order the Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. And pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Bolton Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can access this meeting while in progress by Zoom video communications. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designed for public comment by telephone, cell phone, or personal computer using Zoom. That said,
just a couple guidelines for participants. When there is a public comment opportunity, which will be designated by the chair who just spoke, please utilize the chat function, which you should be able to find at the bottom or very top of your screen, or the raised hand function to address the board. If you physically wave, if you have your camera on, because you can't find the other functions, I will do my best to try and see that. Additionally, wait until you are addressed by the board for public comment. Please remain on mute otherwise until you have been addressed by the board chair. Also, participants are required to display your first and last names for record keeping purposes. So we do appreciate you changing it if necessary at this time. Brian, I will hand it back to you.
okay. First up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the open public meeting under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss a notice of intent filed for Century Mill Road, map 3.D, parcel 75, and discussion regarding proposed construction of 3 single-family homes and the widening and paving of an existing gravel driveway. Rebecca, do we have an update on this one?
We do, not very substantive. The update is that the applicant has requested a continuation via email until the next meeting, which should be August 3rd. I believe the next time slot is 7:30. And they have been in communications with our engineer on their response to the original calculations by the applicant. So they are now preparing their response to our peer reviewers review.
Excellent. Okay. And I do realize I am remiss that we did not start with a roll call this evening. So if we could just do a roll call now, just so I can figure out who is present. I'll start. I am Brian Barabee.
Emily Winter.
William Payne.
Laura Stevenson.
And I'm Rebecca Longbaugh.
Perfect. Thank you all. In that case, I would like to make a motion that we continue the open public hearing for Century Mill Road map 3.D parcel 75 until our next public meeting, Tuesday, August 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Do I hear a second for that?
I second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Are we early for this?
We are very early. I was just trying to look through some of the updates. Is there anyone in particular you feel like discussing, Rebecca?
We can do the Keys Farm update if you would like, because that I do not believe on the agenda had a time associated with it.
You are correct. Yeah, that one's open, and we have 25 minutes before the next actual hearing, so it might be a good time to start that one.
Okay.
So when, if possible, could you give us an update on the enforcement order and Keys Farm?
Sure. I'm just going to ask whoever just joined the meeting to please change your name from initials to your first and last name, please. So the update for the Keys Farm enforcement is they have brought the items related to the punch list that was discussed at one of the public meetings following the May 3rd, 2021 enforcement order that was issued. And they have brought those items into compliance. The last item, again, this is only specific to that enforcement order. And that the last item on that was to overseed the areas where they had used stump grindings, which was an approved amendment by the commission in a very far past public hearing and public meeting where they requested that change. So they have done that seeding. I'm still waiting to follow up to see if there's vegetation growing. I will be doing a site visit on August 2nd, I believe, with the individual's representative. So at that time, I'll be able to observe any growth that has occurred on those slopes. The other update was that we had the applicant's representatives had submitted SWIP inspections. We did note some concerns. For instance, they weren't signed. And then there were a few items that I felt should have been included. For instance, there were a couple inspection forms that had been the day before or the day after an enforcement order had been issued where there was a clear erosion or runoff circumstance, to be general. So we are following up on that, both with council and just in general, reviewing all of those documents from that they have submitted and then comparing it to site visits to ensure that they are reflective of what actually was occurring on site.
Okay. And it seems like that's where it would stand for now. I'm guessing we'll have another update at our next meeting.
Yes.
August 3rd.
Yep, so there's no action necessary at this time associated with this agenda item. Simply an update to show the status of the enforcement order. I was hoping that the applicant or the representative would be present, but knowing that it's an update and they have sent the punch list item update as well, I'm not necessarily concerned with that, but I was hoping that they could provide some insight on the SWIP inspection forms.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they weren't able to join us. But again, we are kind of pursuing those along other means, and we'll give that a chance to play out. Any commission members have questions about what's currently going on with Keys Farm or where we stand as far as that enforcement order goes or went? Okay. Moving on. Do commission members have a chance to read through the minutes from the July 6th meeting? And if so, were there any corrections, additions, edits? Or if anybody needs more time to look through those minutes, please make it known. Right, hearing none. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our July 6, 2021 meeting as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you. We do still have, do you want me to just run through these?
I was going to say, yep,
items?
yep,
Okay.
please.
We do have our volunteer land steward position open still, so applications are welcome. Our Still River Trail Steward has had her last day, so I do want to extend a thank you to her for her efforts on the project. The trail maps have been updated to reflect the removal of the trail segment, bisecting the collective open space in the area adjacent to the Taggart property and including the Taggart property that we talked about at the last meeting. And we have continued to communicate in order to get the trail connection from Sand Road to Forbush and then Forbush to Taggart. The point of interest signage has been completed with QR codes installed on them. So now we just need to install them out in the field, which we will be coordinating a work party to do. So keep an eye out for that. Again, this project in particular was funded through the land grant for the acquisition, but also the Nashua, Squanicook, and Nissitissit Rivers Wild and Scenic Stewardship Council had a community grant opportunity through the National Park Service, which enabled us to not only hire Brianna, but also conduct the rest of the work here. The Bower Springs Earthen Dam assessment will be conducted over the following weeks. So if you see an individual or two out there reviewing the area, that is what they are doing. I wanted to include the Wilder Pond Conservation Area on this because when myself and the Bolton Trails Committee were reviewing areas of trail that have significantly overgrown, or in this case, we had recently replaced a bridge that had actually washed downstream, and realized that there's a lot of invasive species management necessary. And in particular on this property, field mowing there's a property with a conservation restriction of the trustees of reservations behind Wilder Mansion or adjacent to Wilder Mansion. And between that agricultural field and Wilder Pond or Goose Pond, it's just significantly overgrown at this point, intertwined with invasive species. So I would suggest to the commission that come fall, we have someone come out and assess and provide us with a cost of what it may take to at least do an initial mowing, which will require, I believe, at least in RDA, because there are some wet meadow fingers that come up through that portion of the property, just to start to get it under control. Then from there, we will be able to maintain it going forward, but it's gotten to a point where it's difficult for volunteers and myself to get out there and actually keep the trail open. And again, this is on the upgradient side of the pond. The other item was, I will save the Taggart Conservation Area until after, because I believe we're running up on 7:15 for our next item, or is it 7:30?
7:30. I see it
Okay.
as 7:30 on my agenda, but
Nope, that is what I did, I think, because I thought the
yeah, we
first
thought
item
we'd have
was
Century
going
Mill
to
this
be there.
morning. Yeah.
So we have completed our MVP action grant project, the Apple Country Natural Climate Solutions. So that is available, or information related to that, along with the final report, is available on the website here. It is a hyperlink on the agenda for those interested. And then I did include a hyperlink for the final report if you want just direct access to that instead of going through the project website. I strongly encourage you to review and just explore the project website. There's a lot of information that is great for educational opportunities, but also just information about the town. And we had a lot of wonderful experts and consultants on this project. And much of it will be integrated into townwide plans moving forward. So that's quite exciting as well. The last item here is the item related to the Taggart Conservation Area. When the project was acquired, it was in Chapter 61, which it still is, aside from the 4.5 acres that is preserved for a specific town use, but not necessarily specific to conservation. The remainder of the property is as it was purchased under the land grant. When it's in Chapter 61, it has a long-term forest management plan. So we continued that plan on the property. At this time, it should be updated and then transferred the name obviously to the town and the Conservation Commission, and ensure that it's still meeting the goals of that, whether it be habitat value, carbon sequestration, whatever those goals may be. We want to ensure that that long-term plan is still suitable, considering the fact that that plan was created 10 years ago. And then the next plan will be good for another 10 years. I spent a significant amount of time on the phone with our service forester, or one of our service foresters, Michael Downey, who is walking me through a few different opportunities that we may have as we work to update this long-term forest management plan. So I would ask that the commission vote to pursue the forest stewardship plan opportunities to update and follow the existing long-term forest management plan as relayed through, again, as it was in chapter, and then that was already existing with the property. So this vote is just allowing me to pursue the opportunities for the stewardship plan related to any grant opportunities that there may be, to have a either a service forester or a consultant, whether that be an arborist or a forestry consultant, come in and communicate with the commission different opportunities or different goals we may have. And there is funding available for it, but we obviously need to apply to that, and I need your authorization to do so. So that's why I'm respectfully requesting this. The other option is, obviously we don't have to vote on this tonight, but I did want to put it on your radar. And the service forester, Michael Downey, did state he had no problem coming in to speak to the commission on the different things that he had spoken to me about. And I know in the past we did speak about the cordwood harvest that's been done in the past, or a limited cordwood harvest. It's been done on Vaughan Hill. It's been done on the Powder House property. It was actually done on the Haynes Wheeler property just north of Fifeshire, which that actually I found in doing quite a bit of research. But essentially what it does is it's a lottery. So 2 days or 2 weekends out of the year, individuals can pay, and that payment again is broken down by the consultant so that we know how much, and it's a self-funded. So we're not making any profit other than paying for the consultant's work. And they separate the property into plots, but where that's already been done on the other parcels, once you do it once here, it carries through as long as the markings stay. So again, we're not encouraging a clear cut. We're not necessarily encouraging a harvest. All I'm saying is that is what has been done in the past. It was successful, and it wasn't outside of these management plans, and it was a way to get the community involved. Other times the forest management plans can be specific to a bird habitat. There's a program called, I think, Stewardship for the Birds. And then that's a whole different type of management, and it may be a little bit less invasive or maybe a little bit more. But those are the things that I spoke to Michael Downey about. He can certainly, like I said, present briefly to you all on the same information, so you're comfortable starting to think about what the commission ultimately wants in terms of long-term management on that property. Or maybe it's just simply we want to continue the existing management of the property in terms of that long-term management plan. And that would be what we follow as well. But I think we have the information from not only the MVP grant, we have the information from our service forester as well to make really good informed decisions moving forward on this property.
Isn't that part of the original outreach to the public about keeping it in forestry or updating that existing? It was one of the things we had said that we were hoping to do with it as part of when we asked the town to actually acquire. Okay. Do members of the commission have questions regarding this? Or specifically, would they like to hear more from a forester?
I'm just curious, would the consultant basically take a look at the property and the existing plan and kind of guide us on what would be the best path forward or give us options on something to pursue as far as the management, the forest, the forest management program goes?
Yep. Yeah, so, and that's from what our service forester relayed to me, that's what the funding is for, to pay for that individual and then to work on the plan overall. Some of it may actually be used for implementation, depending on what ultimately the decision is for that long-term plan and what needs to be organized. There are other avenues that only the consulting and the planning update is covered. So it really depends on what the commission wants. But yes, they will work with you to say, this is what the commission under the statute is able to do. But then also, this is how we want to manage it going forward. And then showing us and comparing the other opportunities that there may be to then move forward with that, whether that be, again, stewardship for the birds I brought up, but that's just because it's at the top of my mind because I read it last. It may be specific to the forest that this plan was managing for. I think it was a red oak, red pine forest, which that's not all that's there. So there are different things like that, but then we also need to understand the implementation of that plan. And is that feasible? Because we do know there are limitations as far as access into the property. So the short answer is yes, the consultant will assist with that and work with us and try and iron out that plan.
Other questions from the commission? Rebecca, if we were to vote to go ahead to pursue those forest stewardship plan opportunities, when and if a final plan was created or a plan was created, we would still have a chance to vote on that as a commission, whether we were going to adopt that plan for this parcel?
Yes, so even still, so this is just allowing me to continue to pursue those opportunities. If there is a plan or an application that is a little bit more specific, then that still will be shown to all of you. If the vote is necessary at a meeting to, make that application, then we'll do that as well during the meeting. And then, of course, yes, because it's conservation land, we do need that to be approved by you before anything gets implemented on the conservation portion of the property. This is something that we did leave as an allowed use on the land grant, which I was actually told gave us a little bit more strength in our application because it had the long-term forest management plan, and that we wanted to try to continue that use, whether or not the program was successful or not, because obviously we don't know what that program is going to look like. But yes, the commission will have another opportunity to weigh in on a final plan or even a draft plan.
Okay. So all that said, I'd like to make a motion that the commission vote to approve our town's conservation agent to pursue forest stewardship plan opportunities and update and follow the existing long-term forest management plan as relayed through the original public outreach for the acquisition. All those in favor of that, say aye, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I am an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And then as far as having the service forester come and present to the commission, is that something you would like, or that you're comfortable once we have a more sort of, when we're at the next step, then maybe have them come?
I'd like to hear from it as much as possible.
Okay, great.
Same.
Okay.
That would be, it would be really nice to just have a little bit of information and maybe a little presentation from them.
Yeah, and I think it will help to not only relate to the community, what opportunities are out there, but then of course relate to all of you as well. Really the differences in each of the opportunities and what exactly it is, where I think it's important to highlight, it's not strictly, we're not talking about a clear cut of any area. We're talking about managing the property in a specific way, whether that be for a habitat, a species of tree, a species of, or a few different species of bird, or other types of wildlife, or potentially a lighter cordwood harvest. But I think there's a lot of different opportunities that can be highlighted and also benefit the community and get them involved as well and actively engaged versus just the trails through it.
Great.
Oh, I didn't talk enough. I almost made it,
Oh, do we? We're close. Yeah, we're close.
but I will schedule that. Does anybody have questions about the MVP project or how to access it? Just
But,
trying to
but
kill
I
a
will say I have accessed it. I have looked at some of the final report and also like the project website, and it's well set up. I found all sorts of interesting factoids. Some of those map overlays are really eye-opening to a certain extent and give you some good ideas. So I would recommend both of those, and I have passed them around to people I know.
Glad to hear it.
All right. We're getting close. It's 117. Rebecca, do you know offhand of the applicants or a rep for them here for this project already? Or in the waiting room?
This is the 117 Wilder Road one. My name is Jake. I'm with ZB Construction that's working on this project.
Okay.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
Yes. All right.
I was
gonna
looking
say, so
through
maybe-
to try and find a familiar name and it was not working out for me, so I
Maybe
apologize.
it's jumping out. I was going to say we might take the risk and start a minute early because I think anybody that wants public comment will have a chance to do so by the time I end up reading it off. So that said, at this point, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing for under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination of applicability for 117 Wilder Road, map 5.B, parcel 55, a proposed sunroom over an existing deck, replacing the footings with helical pilings, submitted by Patrick Byrne of ZB Construction. And it sounds like we do have a rep for the applicant here. And if you could give us a quick rundown of this project and what you're asking, that would be fantastic.
Sure. So once again, Patrick's my partner. I'm Jake.
Jake.
We're ZB Construction based out of Lancaster. We've been contracted by the homeowner to help out there. What they have now is a 12 by 12 deck and then a deck that runs along the whole back of the house. But there's a 12 by 12 section which has a screen room underneath, and there's rot. The underdeck gutter system is fallen down and is no longer functional for the screen room below. They have about a 13 by 13 foot slab of concrete on the ground level at this point in time. We don't know what those footings consist of. There's only 2 pillars. We're going to plan to put in 3 helical piles about 1 foot off of the existing concrete pad, and we're going to have a covered 3-season sunroom. Is what we're going to do. New frame, a roof, and deck boards. That's pretty much the bulk of the project. We have a Title V report, and we haven't had any issue with the Board of Health on this. The distances from the septic are sufficient, and the septic is between, from what I see on the map here, the wetlands are between the septic or past the septic from where we're doing the construction. So We figured that if we were good with not coming too close to the septic and the wetlands were beyond that, then we were all set. But that's for you guys to make a determination on. And if you have any other questions, I'm here to answer any of them.
Sure. Roof runoff. You said the gutter system under the existing deck had failed.
Yep.
What is being proposed for runoff?
So it's just a shed roof is going to be pitched away from the house. And I got to look at the contract, see if we have gutters on here, but if anything, it's just going to drain the water from the roof, is going to be drained to daylight. If we have anything, one moment here. Yeah, we don't have anything specific on a gutter. So right now there has been no real game plan on where to divert the water, but we can put a gutter up, no problem, if that's required.
I'm trying to think, like, I'm not familiar with the property. I'm trying to picture 117. Does the yard like pitch down to the wetland? Is this like over a flat yard area? That's just kind of my question of the runoff.
When I was there to do the quote, it was pretty flat, low grade towards the wetland, but I mean, maybe you have to go 25 feet to go down a foot, if that.
Yeah, not a huge.
Like I said, the septic is off of the house, so there's really no pitch for probably 50 to 75 feet.
Yeah, coming off.
Is the screen porch is going to be on the where the elevated deck is currently? Is there anything going underneath, or is it just going to be posts? Is it open below?
Yep, no plans for underneath. Right now, they're just going to leave the concrete pad, and they're going to use it for storage underneath the deck, dry storage.
Okay, so it's a deck with a screened-in porch below now, but instead it's going to be an elevated. So where the deck is will be an enclosed screen porch. Is that? Am I understanding that
Negative.
right?
Up top is going to be a covered. Up the main floor level.
Yeah.
So the top level portion where the deck is currently is going to be covered with screening and railings.
Yep.
For a 3-season porch area, and then down below is going to be open.
Okay.
Just for storage. And
And
that's
how
on
big-
ground level is going to be for storage.
What was the size of the new screened-in porch?
So the current one is 12 by 12. We're going to be going 12 wide and then 15 feet off the house. So we're going to get 3 feet closer, but the pylons are only going to be coming about a foot further from where the concrete pad is now.
Okay.
Other commission members have any questions? Rebecca, do you have thoughts on this project?
My only thoughts were, I was happy you brought up the runoff. I think to the best of the commission's ability, well, actually it's jurisdictional. So I would encourage the commission to encourage the applicant to direct the runoff away from the wetland resource areas to allow just filtration over natural surface area. Hopefully it infiltrates for the most part completely before it reaches the wetland resource area. In the past, we have seen dry wells installed to accommodate any runoff from the roof to infiltrate directly into the ground at that point. I'm not severely concerned with the foot increase. I understand what is being described as far as the difference in size, even though the footings are only increasing slightly, but again, it is increasing towards the resource area. So just something for the commission to consider. Where it's over an existing disturbed area, again, except for that foot difference, I would just like to make sure that whatever is underneath is not something that is hazardous or will cause any concerns with hazardous material being stored. For instance, no oil or gas for a lawnmower under there, or if equipment is being stored under there, it's not leaking, but those are some things that the commission's able to condition.
Is there anybody here from the public to comment on this one this evening?
Again, you can use your raise hand function or the chat function or physically wave, and I will try to see you. And I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay. I know we have been out to this site before. I'm curious if other commission members would like a site visit to this site, or if they're comfortable discussing it this evening with certain conditions as we kind of discussed and Rebecca discussed. Curious how people come down. Would they like to get out, take a chance to get out and see this one? Are they comfortable enough with this one to discuss it more tonight? Any thoughts on commission members on that? All right.
Given that there is currently a structure there, I'm personally comfortable discussing tonight, but fully support a site visit if other commission members feel that that would be necessary.
Right. Tends to be how I come down. I know they're using the little helical struts too, which are non-permanent, which is a plus as well. Bill or Lori, any issues with us continuing with this one tonight, or would you like to get out and see this site?
No problem.
Okay. Bill?
No problem.
All right. All right. Because I guess where I would lean was it'd probably be a -3 determination, right? Where it's jurisdictional with the following conditions, basically. I'm trying to think how to word the runoff, that any runoff from the new structure be directed away from the wetlands, or into a dry, I suppose I could say, or into a dry well. So as far as that one's concerned, and as far as hazardous materials being placed underneath the new structure, that I basically, I think I could say that hazardous materials are to be avoided, and you know, anything placed underneath that may have oil, gas, whatnot inside be in you know, properly maintained, not leaking. Basically.
Yep, and then I would just mention the no stockpiling within 100 feet of the wetland resource area, or that typical condition that you use.
Okay. All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 117 Wilder Road. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well. Like to make a motion that we have a -3 finding for 117 Wilder Road with the following conditions. That runoff water from the new structure be driven away from the resource area or into a dry well in order to diffuse it before getting to the resource area. That underneath this this new addition, we prevent the stockpiling of any hazardous materials, and any machinery that may contain hazardous materials be properly maintained and taken care of so that they're not leaking or anyhow allowing hazardous materials into the resource area. And that no stockpiling of materials take place within 100 feet of the wetland resource area. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and Rebecca. I will make it unanimous, aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jake, once all the signatures have been received by the commission, you will, is it the property owner, or am I mailing this to your company?
You can mail it to our business address. That would be fine. PO
Okay.
Box 96 in
Could
Lancaster.
you please send me an email with the appropriate mailing address so that I just have it in writing and then I
Yep.
can be sure to mail it?
Yep, not a problem.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yep, have a good night. Thanks for listening.
Take care. All right, we are, once again, we're close within a few minutes. Rebecca, if we heard any more Bower Springs dog waste, I'm just curious if we've gotten any more complaints in or if there's any.
No other complaints at this time. Bower Springs is on the agenda, so we can talk about it. The camp has been lining the trails with down logs to help people stay away from the edge of the pond and the wattles as well that are in place. And I think that has most likely been taking people's eye off any dog waste, but I believe the Lauren Bell is actually conducting her flag survey. I believe she said this week or next week. So that may also be the reason why. And I will be putting up those signs this week. I believe she's putting some out as well as part of their project.
That makes sense. Did you want to talk about the earthen dam assessment? We can hold off, but I know we do have a few minutes before we need to start.
So there's not much to talk about that at this time. We're still waiting, obviously, for the work to be conducted. What they're going to be doing is just assessing the earthen dams. The ponds at Bower Springs are man-made, but they are obviously jurisdictional because over time things become jurisdictional. And once they meet the characteristics of resource areas in the Wetlands Protection Act and our wetlands bylaw. The two ponds are bound by earthen dams. And at this time, again, we saw some holes around the top. Now they could have been dug by dogs because we do, or in humans for that matter, because the amount of traffic that we see at Bowers. But well knowing that they are earthen dams, we do want to make sure that the structural integrity of the dams themselves are not being compromised and therefore resulting in these specific locations of where now there are small holes. In addition to that, we do have a lot of beaver activity within Bower Springs. It's a nice, safe place for the beavers to exist. However, we do see impact from them as well. So we want to just rule out that it's a natural occurrence and not something to be concerned with. So over the next couple of weeks, BSC Group has been contracted to go out, do an assessment. They will then present to the commission, provide a report, and then some suggestions on steps moving forward. It may have the result that of some vegetation management. It may have the result of a trail being temporarily closed to allow for stabilization or revegetation of an area. At this time, we just simply don't know. We have to wait until we get those reports and the suggestions from the individuals doing the work. And I believe they're contracting or subcontracting GZA to assist them as well. So we do have individuals who are experts in the field reviewing this to ensure that we know how best to move forward and our decisions are informed as well. And with any decision we make, we will certainly be notifying the public, talking about it during a public meeting, and having that discussion at that time.
Excellent. Thank you for the update.
Yep.
All right. Perfect time. Okay, at this point, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open the hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss a request for determination of applicability for 580 Main Street, map 4.C, parcel 24, proposed excavation of test pits and the installation of groundwater monitoring wells submitted by Philip Cordero of Allen and Major Associates. Do we have somebody here representing the applicants for this?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I am here. It's Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates.
How are you, Mr. Cordero?
I'm well, sir. Thank you.
Excellent. If you could give us a quick rundown on what you are proposing, that would be fantastic.
I'm happy to do so, sir. I appeared in front of this commission probably a couple of months ago requesting a similar request for determination of applicability for some groundwater testing relative to public drinking water supplies. We're now here for a second request in the advancement of on-site geotechnical exploration. This will be for the purposes of determining septic suitability and also drainage capabilities as part of the long-term goal to redevelop this property. So as I testified during the initial RDA that I'll do here again, we know that the Wetlands Protection Act has some certain exemptions regarding on-site testing for soil suitability and the like, but obviously the Bolton Conservation Commission maintains a very specific local bylaw. We would not want to try and supersede that. So what I'm asking for under this RDA request this evening is permission to dig those on-site soil test pits and some groundwater monitoring wells that will maintain, or we will monitor for groundwater elevation levels as part of a long-term groundwater discharge permit proposal that will ultimately be applied for under this site. As part of the application, I would want to reassure the commission, as shown on the plan that's on the screen, we'll make sure we install downstream appropriate erosion measures. And those are in fact in place as we speak here today. We'd like to ask the commission's agent to review those as soon as she can, which would allow us to proceed. And then we would obviously return the surficial state back to the pre-excavation state as soon as we can right afterwards. And then one final note, the wetlands that you're seeing on the plan that I've provided are in fact delineated wetlands by Goddard Consulting. We have not come in front of the commission yet for the ANRAD to firm these lines with you, but we will certainly be doing that as part of this project. So you will see us again doing an ANRAD and then ultimately come back in front of you again for notice of intent, just to keep you plugged into the long-term process here on the land. And then lastly, if the commission is or is not aware, this land is slated for development and is the site of a local initiative permit application or local initiative program application that was countersigned by the Bolton Board of Selectmen back in June. And we're currently under review with the state right now. So that is our request, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm familiar with test pits, the monitoring wells. What is the size of those and how permanent are those?
So we have to put in 4-inch PVC perforated casings so that way we can monitor groundwater elevations, and they will remain in place permanently if we are approved for the septic location. So the wells are to be located near the current site driveway entrance. That's where they're slated to be installed because that's where we would likely target our septic fields to be located. So the state requires that we install an upstream and a downstream monitoring point. So if a permit were to be approved by DEP, we can use those points to extract water to test for potential septic contaminants once it's in use.
And if for some reason it wasn't approved, are they relatively easily removed?
We could pull them out if you desired. Sometimes removal is more detrimental than leaving them, but we could work at the commission's discretion. If you'd like them removed, we could of course do that. If not, we could certainly cut them to grade and bury them essentially.
But you are saying that if your septic plan gets approved, these will be basically a permanent part of it?
Yes, sir, they would be.
They have to remain in place.
As part of the project, we've consulted with Mass DEP and we've made them aware of where a public drinking water supply could be located, where septic treatment fields could be located. So as part of that process, they help identify for us where these wells need to be located.
Okay. Do other commission members have questions, initial questions?
I have a question. I'm working off my phone, so I apologize. I'm
So
trying
am
to
I,
zoom
so
in and
that's
out.
okay.
It looks like there's some test wells. Rebecca had, I think, circled with her cursor is that for septic?
Yes, that is septic. Yes, ma'am.
And what is the offset from the wetland there?
So the state requires a minimum of 50 feet for the ultimate design of the septic leach fields. For the septic, the testing, we're just outside of probably 45 feet, right where that cursor was a moment ago. The dashed pink line represents your 25-foot preferred no disturb buffer. So you can see that we're out there, and it's probably about 40 feet, give or take.
And is there any opportunity to get further away from the wetland with the septic?
We can look into it. I mean, at this point, we don't want you to interpret these test pit locations as where the septic is going. We just need to know what the soil conditions are so we can determine if it's septic capable. And then we can work through to maximize the distances as appropriate as we can. When we go to formal design, that is, ma'am.
Right, but it looks like, is that the only location that you're doing test wells for septic? I'm just concerned if that's the only area being tested and then it comes back that the soils are good. Now we're reviewing a septic design that's 30, 40 feet away from the wetland. I'm just curious if the other areas are being looked into for the septic that aren't 40 feet away from a wetland.
So they are not. It is the area that we are reviewing for the septic because it's the only area that will meet all of the setback criteria for DEP relative to the drinking water supply separations. So at the rear of the site, we will have multiple well points for the public drinking water supply. And each one of those will generate a zone 1 radius that we can't put any structures within. And then we also have some drainage that will be located on site. So when all of those factors are laid out on the site plan together, this front area is the targeted point for the septic. So if we are successful with the soils here, we will target this location, but we will review the design for maximum separation as much as possible, ma'am.
Okay.
Other commission members with questions? Rebecca, do you have thoughts on this?
I do. I think Emily brings up a really good point regarding testing locations and how it relates to the potential proposed plan in the future. We are, as Phil stated right now, just considering the test locations, but again, it does relate to future potential proposals. I do want to highlight that at this time, as far as the RDA relates to, or the potential decision that the commission will issue based on what is before them this evening, that the delineation is not part of that decision at this time. As Phil stated, that will be before the commission through an ANRAD, it sounded like. So Phil, can you just confirm that the wetland delineation at this time is not being requested to be confirmed as part of this RDA submittal?
That is correct, ma'am. We're
Okay.
not asking the commission to render a decision on the line. That will be forthcoming by separate application.
Okay, thank you.
you.
My follow-up question to what Brian had asked earlier is, can you just describe, I know you mentioned it's the permeated PVC pipe. How far into the ground is that going?
They have to go, we have to get about 10 feet down in total. We need to make sure that the groundwater elevations are located below the water table and well below the anticipated bottom of the leach field.
Okay, thank you. And then if you could just elaborate on the plan. Can you see the plan that I have? It's the plan
I
that you
can.
had submitted.
Yes, ma'am.
Which are the excavation locations and which are the well monitoring proposed locations?
Could I ask
Monitoring well
Rebecca?
locations. I'm sorry, what?
Could you zoom in at the
Yep.
site driveway entrance and just make it a little bit easier, please? I
Okay.
apologize, I'm working remotely, but if you see, you can see the round circle designations with the letters MW in them. Those are the monitoring well points. So there's
Okay.
2 of them along the left. That's one correct right there. There's one due south of that on the site driveway. That's correct. And then there's one in amongst those other test pits encompassed by the erosion control. That's it correctly. Those are the 3 monitoring well points that are to be installed. Slight modification to this particular plan on those first 2 monitoring wells, which are shown in the driveway.
Yeah.
We're actually going to move them further westerly. So outside of the driveway into that grassed field. So further away from the wetlands for a point of clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then as we move south on the parcel,
Those are all standard test pits. And we're doing it for 2 purposes. One is to identify estimated seasonal high groundwater, also to classify the soils, and then to determine if there's any ledge on site in those areas. We obviously know that there's a large pocket of ledge in the middle of the site, but we want to make sure if there's any rock at any of the other test point locations.
sure.
Rebecca, any members of the public here tonight to comment on this?
Let me see. I do have one last question
Go ahead.
for now anyway, first, and that is, Phil, can you just relate to the commission what your proposed erosion control is? I know you said it's out on site, and I believe it looks like a wattle.
That's correct. We use the straw wattle because we find it's very modular. We can anchor them right in place. And what we'd anticipate doing is basically ringing the test pit locations and having those staked out. We think it's very effective. We think what we'll ultimately do, because they are at points of excavation, we'll ensure we cast the soils upstream, do our investigation, and then return the soils back into the hull and pack those down. And then we can leave the erosion measures in place, infinitely to make sure that there's no future erosion. And then what we can do is we can go back on top of it, much like we did with the well point investigation a couple of months ago, and put some seed on top of it or spread some straw just to stabilize those areas.
Okay.
And what I would want to make sure I do point out, the erosion barriers that are there on this particular plan are certainly schematic. They'll be more appropriately spaced and laid out in the field. And again, to your discretion, Rebecca, those are already installed as we sit here this evening. For your inspection and review, of course.
Yep, thank you. Mr.
you.
Chair, we do have a resident, Patricia Bensettler, who has her hand raised. Would you like me to unmute her?
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. This may not be the right time to ask my question. I sent a letter. Rebecca, did you get it?
Your email?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And I was asking the general question, but if this is not an appropriate time, just tell me. Whether it was possible to reduce the amount of draw on the aquifer by having, and again, this is all non-technical, I'm just trying to make a suggestion, and I'll only allow watering of the landscape from surface water or water from the brook or the pond or something. My concern is there are a lot of sites that are drawing on the same aquifer. And I'm one of them, the smallest one probably, but the school, I believe, is on that aquifer too. So that was my question. If it's not appropriate now, just let me know and I'll come back.
I mean, I would say it's a good point to mention at this time, since it's very preliminary. Not too preliminary though, but I do think that may be better inquired to the Board of Health. And that's who I was going to forward your email to, because they may have better information on drawdown regarding well water, where we don't typically have that information.
Sadly,
That's a
I
good
met
point.
with them tonight, and they told me I had to go back to you, or where I originally sent the letter, and to planning.
Interesting.
So it has been brought up with them. I can
Okay.
bring it up again. I don't know who has jurisdiction. Jenny sent the email to a lot of different groups.
Okay. So what I was referring to was the Neshoba Board of Health, which there may have been a representative present at the
There was.
local Board of Health meeting.
Yes, there
But
was.
I think it's certainly beneficial to bring up now to this board and also the planning board, because we're all going to be reviewing whatever is proposed ultimately for the development. And these test wells, these monitoring wells will help give an idea of the groundwater. But of course, sometimes that translates to the aquifer yield as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And I just ask that I can be looped in when things are appropriate. I'm just concerned about watering landscaping from the aquifer.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. As Rebecca said, I don't know that it necessarily connects directly with what they're asking for tonight, but it does definitely connect in down the road, and it is something we will need to monitor. And I appreciate you bringing it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr.
I'm just
Chairman.
writing it down. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask Rebecca
Please.
to forward us that email that was received, so we can just have it for our files, since it will be a future point of discussion, please?
Yep, of course, I can do that. And essentially, it's exactly what Pat has stated, but I will forward you that email so you have it just as a comment from one of the concerned residents. But also, I would believe that that may also be a comment that the commission puts into any comments they provide in the future as it moves through the various departments and they request comments.
Thank you.
Any other public comment this evening?
I see none.
Okay. For commission members, if we were to approve this tonight with either a -3 or a -5, there any specific conditions you would like to see added to the proposal as it stands now for the test pits and the monitoring wells? All right. Rebecca, would you have any suggested conditions that we're not already seeing on the application?
I would say stockpiling of material should occur outside of the commission's jurisdictional area. The area should be reseeded and returned to its natural state as best as possible.
Yep.
And it may include the use of straw as well, as Phil stated already, and then an erosion control inspection prior to work, I think is warranted.
Yep. Okay. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for request for determination of applicability for 580 Main Street, map 4.C parcel 24. Do I hear a second for closing?
A
Second.
second.
And thirded. All those in favor, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I am an aye as well. I'd like to make a motion that we find a -3 determination for the request for determination of applicability 580 Main Street. A -3 determination with the following conditions: that there's no stockpiling of materials within 100 feet of the wetland resource area, that the disturbed areas be reseeded and returned to a natural state upon completion, And that the area, that wattles can be used with straw or hay. Well, would prefer the use of straw and any type of wattles or erosion controls. And that any erosion controls put in place be inspected and approved by the town's conservation agent before the beginning of work. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care. Rebecca, are you in a good place if I proceed on to Fry Road?
Yes, and I believe the applicant's representative is present as well.
Yep. Hi, I'm Chris Western with Red Oak Renovations.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination of applicability for 84 Fry Road, map 2.B, parcel 54, a proposed 18 by 18 sunroom with roof and concrete footings submitted by Chris Western of Red Oak Renovations. If you could give us a quick rundown of the project, we would appreciate that.
Sure. It's an 18 by 18 deck that's going to have a roof covering. It'll just be a 3-season porch that's screened in. Yep, on the side of the house, it does fall within the 100-foot buffer of the wetlands area. During construction of the house and the pool that's in there, the buffer zone was 50 feet and they had landscaped right up to that 50-foot buffer line.
Gotcha.
So what is the light blue line?
That's the wetland line.
Yep.
It's a sketch over the wetland line, though.
And that's the 100-foot buffer?
No, so the blue is the wetland line.
Okay,
He's saying it's within 100 feet. So when you look at this here, it's within 80 feet of that wetland line, the proposed work. And
okay.
the 100-foot buffer actually extends beyond. And there is an existing pool just behind the home here, within that buffer as well. Oh, excuse me, this is the 100-foot buffer. I'm sorry.
Right, coming off that one.
Yeah, so the corner of the deck will be just outside of it, actually.
What's being proposed again? I guess for runoff off the sunroom?
Oh, right. Yeah, we hadn't discussed gutters or anything with the homeowner, but like that other project, we could do a dry well or at least direct it away from the wetlands also.
And this is a deck, not a sunroom, correct, Chris?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so that was my error, actually. So this is a deck. It's not covered, correct, Chris?
There will be a roof on it, but it will not
There's
be
a roof. Will
totally
not be a
enclosed.
three-season.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Rebecca, have you been out to this one at all? I'm trying to picture this on Fry Road. I don't know the house.
I have not.
Yeah, you can't see it from the road or anything. It's tucked
Okay,
back there.
one of those. Because is it? It looks like, is it the full project over existing lawn right now?
Yeah, basically, I drew a sort of small black line on that picture on the left, which is about where, can't tell because the picture's in the fall, but that's about where their lawn is.
Actually, ends.
They went right up to the 50-foot line, basically.
Makes sense. And what's the topography like? Is it a gradual drop off down to the wetlands? Do you know how much rise over run we're looking at there as that yard goes?
Very gradual. I would pretty much flat.
All right. All right. Other commission members have initial questions?
I just wanted, I'm just looking at the note. I just want to confirm. So this is elevated, covered porch with concrete footings,
Yes.
right? Just, are there 2 concrete footings at the 2 outer corners? And then it's, the structure is going to tie back to the house?
The structure will tie back to the house, and there's actually going to be 4 footings, 5, sorry.
4
5.
footings. Okay,
But on the outside corners and then in the middle.
okay. 5 footings, and it's 80 feet from the wetland?
The corner closest to it is 80 feet.
Okay. And then you said roof, but not enclosed, so maybe a screen porch type of a deal?
Yes.
Okay, and then what does the roof pitch look like? Is it like have a peak, or is it flat sloped?
Peaked in the same manner that the house is.
Okay, so Brian, going to your question about runoff, we'd have half of the runoff going toward the wetland, the other half going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I was gonna see what other commission members thought, but this is one where I'd actually like to do a site visit. Again, I'm just not familiar with the property
Mhm.
back there, and I'd kind of like to see what the topography looks like. That's kind of where I was leaning, but I just kind of want to hear what other commission members, if they're comfortable with it as is, if you'd like to see more where that stands.
I think a site visit would be helpful, Brian, just especially as you said with the topography and kind of seeing what that slope to the wetland is like.
And I'm not familiar with that area back there as much as I'd like to be. Other commission members with initial questions on this? Okay. Rebecca, do you have any initial thoughts on this?
I do not, but I myself am not familiar with this site either, so I think a site visit is warranted.
Are there members of the public here to comment on this one this evening?
We had an Amanda Barnett raise her hand. Would you like me to unmute her?
Please do, yes.
Sorry, I tapped it by accident.
Oh, okay, great. No worries. Okay, so then no public comment.
Okay. All right, so if possible, can we try to set up a site visit for this one? And if the applicant's okay, would probably just continue this till our next meeting, which is 2 weeks from now, August 3rd, and try to set up a date and time to work to get out there and just take a look at what's going on. Would
That's
that
1
work for
week
you?
away, Brian. That's
What's
1
that?
week away.
I'm sorry, it's
1
1
week.
week away. Which, yeah, now that I'm actually back from vacation, so I will be here, and most days I can get out there. If we think we can do it within the next week, I'm hopeful we can. Would the applicant be willing to let us postpone to our next meeting just to give us a chance to get out there and take a look?
Yep, if that's what you guys want to do, sure.
All right, perfect. And Rebecca, we can try to organize that via email chain tomorrow.
Yes, if there is a date that you know offhand you absolutely cannot do, please tell me now or forever hold your peace.
Friday. Friday would be very difficult for me, but every other day I should be fine.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm not hearing anyone else yell out, so I will
Okay.
coordinate that.
If we were to continue until our next meeting, what's the first time slot open for us?
7:45.
7:45. All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for request for determination of applicability for 84 Fry Road till our next public meeting, Tuesday, August 3rd at 7:45 PM. Do I hear a second?
Second,
All right. All those in favor, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
aye,
Lori,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So Chris, I will coordinate with you and then you can speak with your client regarding the site visit and just so that we can coordinate a time that isn't interrupting any family or personal functions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Wow, we actually got through some of our other business earlier. Are there any updates we're missing?
Not at this time.
All right. Any commission members have any new business or just want to get anything off their chest, sing a song, anything good like that? Thank God, hearing no.
Would not be good, Brian.
Okay, it's perfect. I'm not jumping up to do it either. All right, so hearing nothing and Bill not willing to sing to us, I'd like to make a motion that we hereby adjourn the Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second for adjourning?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Emily,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Rebecca, and we'll see you soon. See you in a week.
Thank you.
Good night,
you.
everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.